Hi, everyone. My name is Hideo Resi. I'm CEO of Desol Group, the parent company of VC Lab, which is also the parent company of Venture Institute. Venture Institute is a program to train people on how to be working in venture capital. And there's a bunch of different roles in venture capital that Venture Institute trains for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through a short presentation about what Venture Institute can do for you. And then we're going to take your questions about anything and everything. If you want, in the meantime, you can introduce yourself in the chat, say whatever you want. And if you have a question that comes up on the presentation about the program or really anything, pop it into the Q&A. There's two chat bubbles at the bottom that say Q&A underneath it. Questions go there. Conversations and introductions go in the chat. All right, so I'm going to start sharing my screen and we'll get going with the presentation. So, hi everyone. Welcome to the AMA about the Venture Institute. The goal of the Venture Institute is to accelerate your career in venture capital. It is a completely free accelerator. So you don't pay for anything. In fact, literally there's nothing commerce related at all with anything that you will do with us. So we're not making money from anyone here at all. We're doing this to help the world. Anyone that enrolls with us needs to agree to the Mensarius Oath of Ethical Investing. And that's all we care about. We want more ethical people working in venture capital. That's it. That's our only objective. And so everything's free. It's pretty awesome. It's got a very high NPS in the 80s. And yeah, it's helping people really learn the insides and outsides of venture capital. And that's super important because venture capital is extremely complicated. Okay, it's one of the hardest things that you can do as a career. It's one of the hardest industries to get to know. And so a lot of people are interested in venture capital and want to work in venture capital, but they don't really know how it works. And the crazy thing is that there's tons of people who actually work in venture capital right now that don't really understand how it all works. So our goal is to show you how venture capital really works and go into detail on the nuances and everything about how it operates. Niels, can you see everything? Because my computer monitor went a little haywire.
Everything is perfectly visible.
Good, including the prepare for any job in VC.
Currently, we're seeing learn how venture capital really works on screen.
See, that's what I thought. All right. So when my monitor sometimes can get a little interesting, and then yeah. Well, I'm gonna try and get my monitor going again, which is not looking great here, but I will try. No. Here we go. Bear with me 1 second because I do have a presentation for you. And sometimes my monitor gets a little funky and it just happened. All right, let's try that again. Can you see now? Prepare for any job in VC? All right, let me know if there's an issue that crops up. Okay, so our goal is to prepare the participants in the Venture Institute for any type of role within venture capital, okay? So that could be an associate, that could be a venture partner, that could even be a partner. And you're really going to understand all, right? So it's a 4-month total program. There's 2 months of straight learning and 2 months of residency. In the first month, you get an overview of venture capital, how kind of everything works on a super high level. We go into the structures of different kinds of venture capital firms, cover how funds work and make money, and then discuss really the importance of limited partners. And in fact, a lot of people look at venture capital, and they don't really realize that they're, financial professionals working for limited partners. So limited partners are quintessential to the entire venture capital operating. In month 2, we go through venture deals, how they're done, etc. We go more deep into the operations of an actual venture capital firm, how the accounting for a venture capital firm works, and then we start looking at venture careers. Now, and between every month in the program, there are reviews, and I'll cover these later on. And the program is pass fail, which I'll go into more detail as well. So if you finish month 1 and you're not really doing the work and you're not really giving it your all, if you will, you're going to fail. If you're using ChatGPT to give answers, you're going to fail. And then you just don't go on to month two. So we're not grading people. We're not saying like, oh, you need to fix this, you need to fix that. It's pass fail. If you pass month 2, you go into a residency. Now, one of the issues with the first half of the program is that you're kind of learning in theory, right? We're giving you practical things to do. It's the most practical program out there, but by comparison, it's still theoretical because you're not actually dealing with real world scenarios. So in month 3 and month 4, you do a residency where you work with an actual venture capital firm, and then you learn things by doing them in real world scenarios. So you'll look at creating an online presence and understand the rules of general solicitation. You'll research limited partners and see who are these limited partners actually are, and what are their roles, and how do they contribute. You'll help managers find top deals related to their thesis. You'll practice screening the actual deals by doing your own due diligence that we'll guide you through. And you'll look at building partnerships to syndicate deals and co-invest and do deals together, which is super important. And then in the last couple weeks, you're going to be doing some special projects to really go deep into things that venture capital firms actually work on, right? Not in theory. So again, by the end of it, you will have some of the most practical knowledge on venture capital, period. You'll know, at least on a high level, as much as most partners know, right? And right now, the commitment's about 10 hours a week in sprints. Now, of course, if you know nothing about venture capital at all, it's going to be a little bit more than that, because you're going to have to learn some of the basics. If you have kind of a primitive working understanding of startup ecosystems and VC funding, 10 hours a week should be fine. So it's about 10 hours a week, a little bit more if you really know nothing about venture capital. And you'll be given sprints to do each week to codify your learning. Then on Wednesdays, there's a mentoring session that has also an AMA where you can ask questions, as well as a socializing component. So you'll get to meet peers all around the world. So you'll get mentoring help from top experts, the ability to ask those experts questions, and then socializing. And if you can't make it, that's fine. They're all recorded. You can access them offline. As I mentioned earlier, there's going to be monthly reviews, month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4. If you're doing the work, if you're trying, if you're contributing, you're going to pass. If you're kind of half-assing it, using ChatGPT, not really paying attention, you're going to fail, okay? And if you fail, we remove you from the program, because we really want to create the strongest possible people coming out the back so that they get careers and opportunities in venture capital. So a lot of people are like, oh, do I get feedback? No, the feedback is pass, fail. And we review all your work. We check out when you're submitting stuff, all this thing. So we check it. But again, If you're doing the work, pass. If you're not doing the work or you're kind of half-assing it, fail. And another cool thing about the program is not only are you doing all this stuff and learning and working, but you're also using one of the best tools on the market uh, to run a venture capital firm called Decile Hub. It's used by more firms right now than any other platform on the market. And it pretty much does everything a venture capital firm needs to do. So you can really dive in to the inner workings of a firm and then see the software that they use to operate it. And, just popping over here, here's an example of it live. It's got a pretty powerful CRM, right? On top of that, it's got a pretty powerful back office system that allows you to track how a firm is doing. And you're going to get to learn this inside and out as part of your learning with the program. And then, as I mentioned, in that second or part of the program in month 3 and month 4, if you're doing well, we're placing you in this residency. And this is really unheard of, right? There aren't programs out there in the world that actually teach you in a real environment with a real firm, right? So you're really learning. You're not just learning these theories and applying stuff to hypotheticals. You're actually doing things with real data, with real deals, with real managers. Now, they may not use anything that you do, right? Because you're learning, and the purpose of this is learning. But the opportunity to work with a real venture capitalist in a real venture firm doing real stuff is something that just does not exist today, right? It's very, very special. So, and if everything goes well, ultimately our goal is to help alumni get jobs in the field. So whether they're end up working for one of the firms that they are a resident with, or there's another firm in our network or that we know that's hiring, our goal is to eventually help anyone that wants placement and reaches that end of the program to find work opportunities in the field. Yeah, and basically that's it, everybody. We are here to help. The program is free. The only thing that we ask in return is that you sign the Mensarius Oath to show that you agree with the same values and principles that we have, and that's it. Our goal is to see you succeed. So with that said, I'm going to stop right now the presentation, and we're going to go into the Q&A. So if you have a question, there's a Q&A button on the bottom there. Do not put it into the chat. You can introduce yourselves in the chat and put questions into the Q&A. So let's get started with the questions, Niels. Do you want to start reading them and I'll start?
Yes, absolutely. First question is from Honish. Honish is in India and is asking basically about the residency. Will he get to work with a VC firm in India in Montreal if they pass?
Maybe we have, so first you have to finish the 2-month part of the first 2 months of the program. And then there's a review. So just to give you numbers, in cohort 1, I think, do you know exactly the number? It's under 50% actually got to finish the program. And then it was, I think, 20 on 170 that got residence. So I think we had 170 some odd, I think almost 180 people start. About 70 got the certificate at the end of the 2 months saying that they finished the learning part of the program, and only 20 got the residence. So getting a residency is not guaranteed. Even if you finish, you have to finish and be very good. And then we have to match you. So I would say if you're doing very good, we'll find a match for you one way or another. And we have matches all around the world. We match people in, they may not necessarily be in India, but we have firms in Asia and India. We have firms all around the world. So our goal is we match you with the closest local firm.
What are the criteria to select participants?
Yeah, and I see the questions are now coming in. That's great. If you see a question you like, upvote it first with the thumbs up, and we're going to answer the most upvoted questions first, and then go from there. So make sure to upvote, make sure to get your questions in, get them in now, and we'll try and get through all of them. So in order to get into the program, the criteria for admissions is you fill out a few questions. It shouldn't take very long. And you take a personality test that takes about 20 minutes, give or take. And then we look at your questions and the personality test results, and we, select the best people. So we look for certain traits. The traits in the personality test are, largely, ungameable, because they're just who you are, right? And so we look for certain traits in the personality test. We look for certain backgrounds. I mean, obviously, we're looking for people who really want to enter venture capital. So if you just want to learn about venture capital to learn about venture capital, we're probably not going to admit you. We want people who are going to be interested in potentially working in the field. And because we want to train, hundreds of people, because the industry is growing very fast. And there's just not enough workforce. Now, so we want to make sure that there's enough people who can help in venture capital for the number of venture capital firms that are getting started, and it's just exploding right now.
What type of roles are residents filling at the VC firms?
The residents don't have, they're not working at the firm. They're learning in the program, but doing stuff with real data from a real firm. So it's a learning program. You're not doing work. I'm not even sure that the managers will use your work. I'm sure some managers do use the work, but this is not doing work. This is learning. You are learning with real data versus learning with hypothetical data.
Another question on the residencies, are they part-time or do the partners expect?
Yeah, everything's about 10 hours a week. The residents, when you're in the residency, it might be a little bit more because you'll have some coordination with the firm, and that might take a little more time, but it's in the 15 hours or less per week. And again, it's mainly learning work, but you're doing that learning with real data.
Irina is asking, would you recommend this program for those interested in entrepreneur and residence roles, or is it more for those interested in more traditional venture roles?
Yeah, I mean, EIRs are, you're working in a venture capital firm, so yes, you definitely would be, if it will be helpful to you to understand how venture capital works, then Venture Institute's useful. If you're in an EIR role, you kind of need to know how venture capital works.
Common question from Anna. Is it possible to join the program in parallel to VC Lab? Does it make sense?
No, you can't do them both at the same time. VC Lab is hard. Venture Institute, much less hard, but together it's too much work.
So we have two questions that are kind of similar. One is there a fee to join the program? And Jeremy is saying, the phrase, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Can you talk more about this common concern or explain more?
Yeah, like for the 10th time, it doesn't cost any money to join. Okay, it is free. It's not free too good to be true. Listen, most of you won't make it anyway. Half or more don't make, more than half don't get to the end of the program. Right, maybe we should charge for it because people would take it more seriously, but it's very difficult to get in. we'll probably have, 1,500 applicants and maybe we'll accept 300, maybe. So like probably like 200. So we're just over a 10% acceptance rate. But I don't, we don't know where the applicant volume will land. We could have 3,000 people apply and then we'd be, under 10%. So it's somewhere I would say between 8 and 15% acceptance rate. So it's very difficult to get in. And as I said, there's no hook, there's no nothing. Like we're not, okay. This is super annoying because the chat keeps popping up over, let me open a chat thing here. So it keeps popping up and covering the Zoom. We're not working so this is not, let's take a step back. Okay. I think I think you're smart enough to realize that the world is fucked right now. Okay. Like, let me be straight. We're heading off a cliff and that cliff is not good. All right. Most coastal areas are heading to be underwater. Like New York, tough. It's going to be underwater. Okay. New York's a great place to live now, but in 10, 20 years from now, maybe they could put some seawalls up, blah, 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 but there's a river, blah, it's going to be underwater. All right. That's the least of the problems. So, this is not like if everyone is sitting around how to make money off of our collective demise, that's just going to accelerate the problems that we're facing. Okay, so we're in trouble, and we're not in like kind of like trouble, get a slap on the wrist. We're in an existential moment of trouble. And the only people who have done this is us. It's not like there's a meteor coming at the planet. We ourselves have messed everything up. And so we need to fix it. Okay. This needs to be fixed. It needs to be fixed now. It doesn't need to be fixed in 20 years when New York's underwater. It needs to be fixed now. Okay. And so it needs to be fixed by people who care, by people who have good values, and by people that are trying to make a positive outcome for humanity. So what we're doing is we've set an ethical code of conduct, and we're going to allocate double-digit amounts of human GDP to managers around the world so that they can fund solutions to the problems that we're facing. Because it's not just problems here in America, it's not just problems in Europe, it's not just problems in Africa. The whole of humanity is doing things in a way that is extremely destructive. Okay? And so we just got to stop and find solutions, and we need to do that now. Okay? And so the reason it's free is because you're signing an oath of ethical conduct. And if you violate that oath, you're out. You're out of the network. You're out of the community. And as far as I'm concerned, you should be out of venture capital as well. So, because we're trying to change things for the better, and there's no amount of, it needs to be done now, right? We need thousands of people with large amounts of money allocating to fixing the problems of the world. And we need to start now. Okay? Now. Like now. All right, let's keep going.
Sure thing. Are all of the sessions live or are they on demand?
They are both. They are live, and you can also watch them asynchronously.
Yeah, we record everything. Then we have Abdul asking, is the registration still on? Yes, I'll go
Yeah,
ahead
for
and
another Early admissions is this Sunday, or is it, do you recall what the early admissions is?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I
Yeah,
put
we
the
just
link
said it. Why
above.
don't you look it up and then we'll answer that. So someone said, I'm slightly confused about the residency. Are you working with a firm as an intern? So you're given projects to do to learn, and you're doing those projects with a real firm. So it's like research deals that the firm can do, right? So you'll go research deal. Now that's what someone in venture capital does. They look for deals, right? But instead of hypothetically looking for deals for a hypothetical fund that's just a giant waste of everyone's time, you're looking for real deals for a real fund. Now the manager, as I said, may choose to use your work or not, right? But because you're doing this work to learn, but you're doing it with a real firm, and we're giving you a curriculum. And if the manager likes your work, maybe they use it, maybe they don't, right? But it's really, again, you're learning with real world scenarios and real world data and real world companies, etc.
Quick update on the admission deadline. We have it as December 15th in the system, so that is Friday.
Okay, so it's Friday and Friday. So this Friday is the early admissions deadline, and next Friday is the
Yes, correct.
a final admissions deadline. Okay. So we got that one. Do you want to get the next one?
Yeah, I
If
was
you
quickly
already
typing
applied
the
and completed the personality test, we're starting admissions to, I think we just agreed to accept like 100-something people today. So we have been processing admissions, but we haven't sent acceptances yet. So I think we're starting to extend acceptances today.
That is correct. And we have another question from India. Nikhil is working in the startup incubation space, has no finance knowledge, and is asking, would I still be able to apply, and how easy would it be for people without a finance background?
Yeah, it's sort of medium level of like medium to low level of finance. If you're really good at finance, this program will be very kind of look, finance is only a small part of VC, by the way, FY. So it's not zero. It's a financial services business, but it's not like more complicated like auditing, accounting. There's certainly a lot more complicated financial things than venture capital. So you will get I would say venture capital is more complicated in the contractual area, and you're going to get a good overview of the contracts, the finance, and everything. And the program itself is sort of medium to low in finance. So you should be fine.
Next up is another, is this program right for me type of question. Giselle is asking, is it appropriate for folks who want to learn about VC, but may not necessarily seek to work directly in the VC industry?
If you don't want to work in the VC industry, you probably won't. You can still apply, you just won't get in, most likely. So we're gonna have thousands of people apply, and we're gonna prefer to train people who are gonna work in the industry, because we're setting up hundreds of firms around the world. More firms are being set up than that, so we're about half the market right now, and so this talent is needed everywhere. And like, just so random training people just because they're curious is not gonna move the needle forward in humanity or help. Or so we want to really focus on helping humanity, right? And so training people to work in the industry, to allocate money to things that matter, is our goal.
Another location-based question about the residency. Do you assist the graduate?
Let's skip these, because
Yeah,
like
it
we got
depends.
residents all around the world. Guys, I've answered a lot of questions, so don't ask something that might have been answered before. It's like, do we have places in India? Yes, we have places all around the world. Do we have places in Africa? Yes, we have places all around the world. Do we have places in the EU? Yes, we have places all around the world. So yeah, you're gonna like, there you go. We can archive all those questions, and now let's go to some new questions.
Yeah, we'll do. A very quick one. Will the recording session be available? Yes. It
This will be
always.
recorded and sent out tomorrow.
Correct.
Jane is asking, I have a full-time job in Dubai. I can take some of these while you're archiving. Will I be able to work with a VC firm? There are lots of people who have full-time jobs. You're not really working with a VC firm. You're working with a learning program using data from a real VC firm. So it's not, you're not employed by the firm. We do have them, you sign some stuff with the firm for confidentiality and other things. So here's what I would say. If you're working in venture, you probably should not do the residency. You might be able to do the residency curriculum with your current firm, the one you're working at right now. But if you're working in venture, you shouldn't do a residency with another firm. But if you're doing any other kind of job, it's fine.
Yeah, we have someone who dropped out of VC Lab around week 9. Would you advise me to apply?
No, there's no coming back, unfortunately. It's one and done right now. So we've made the decision yesterday that if you want to come back, when the demand starts going down, we'll invite people who didn't make it through the program to come back, right? But we're getting thousands. We want to train. We don't want to. We're not and this is not the world of second chances, right? If you want to get into venture, you gotta really try. It's not. You don't have to work hard per se, but you have to work smart. And if you do good work, you'll pass, right? Because pass, fail, you'll get the residency and you'll most likely get a career in venture capital, right? That's the goal. But if for some reason you don't get to the end right now, we're not going to have second chances available for the foreseeable future. I'm guessing within a year or two, demand will come down a little bit, though we're not seeing that in any other program that we operate. But when demand comes down a little bit, we'll open it up to second chances. That's different in VC Lab. In VC Lab, we do let you come back because starting a venture firm is far harder than Venture Institute or anything in the world. It's one of the hardest things you can do in the world. So we do give people second chances in
Yeah.
VC Lab.
A quick note on that. This specific person dropped out of VC Lab and is asking if applying to Venture Institute would make sense.
Oh, that's great. If you didn't make it in VC Lab and you want to get correct, then absolutely, this program's a great next step. You'll learn a lot of details about how venture capital operates, might prepare you better to come back to VC Lab later. A lot of people go through Venture Institute and then go into VC Lab. That definitely happens.
Does Alicia is asking, can you say a bit more about the test and what it's supposed
Just
to
go send them the link to the Entrepreneur DNA test. This
Okay.
is a test run by the Founder Institute, and so it's a psychometric sociological test that with based on the big 5, but it has some other attributes, and you can read all about it in the materials that
put it in the answer in the chat?
Perfect.
So a question about timing. When does week 1 start?
Mid-January, I believe.
January 10th.
Yeah, January 10th. Okay. Why don't I read some, you archive some. And guys,
Yeah.
do me a favor right now. Use your thumbs and upvote questions so that we can find the most popular questions and answer them first. So what about people who have already experienced in the VC by working at a VC company before? Yeah, this is great. Look, if you've worked in venture capital, you probably understand it pretty well. But there are lots of areas that you may not understand, right? You might not understand how limited partners work and how they come on. You might not understand the accounting of venture capital firms. You might not understand how exits are done or deal sourcing. Because like what traditionally happens in VC firms is managing partners are protective. It's kind of a racket, right? They make lots of money. And so they hire people and they isolate them, and they like, even people that you know in the industry that you're very famous, right? That are they don't even know how the model works, right? Because let's say you're a partner at a firm. Most partners at firms are deal partners. So they only work on deals, right? But they don't necessarily do the back office, right? That doesn't seem like a great use of your time if you want them doing deals. They don't necessarily raise money from limited partners, right? Because you don't want to, that's the bread and butter of the firm, and only the managing partners, the senior people, do that, right? So they don't understand that. So even accomplished venture capitalists that you know don't understand fully how a venture capital firm operates end to end, and this will provide that training. So you'll understand end to end how a VC firm works. Request attention to the question about how there's I guess, a question in the application that says, what stage is your idea or product or service at? That's a founder question. Niels, could you note maybe we should remove that question if it's there? You also might not be applying to, can you put the apply link in, Niels? It's possible you applied to the wrong program, Tejas. So if you're seeing a lot of founder related questions, you might have applied to the wrong program. So I strongly recommend that everyone here, there's a link there to apply to Venture Institute 3. Read the their Founder Institute runs founder programs. We use it to run VC Lab. We also use it to run Venture Institute. So just make sure you applied to the right program. Someone's asking, you can archive some of these that are redundant here. Foresti's asking, the training is free for 2 months, and then what about the residency? No, there's no. So the training is free and the residency is free. The residency isn't working. You're learning. Okay, I want people keep asking this, like, do I get paid? Like, you're learning with real data. You cannot learn with fake data. There's an end to your learning with fake data, because like you can fake stuff, right? But it's not like the real world is vastly more complicated than any sort of model. So we need to get, in order for you to properly learn, you need to have real data. So that is why there's these residencies, right? So it's not, they're not paid, it's not a job, it's learning with real data. So the whole thing is free. So the first 2 months are free and the residency is free. It's free for the firm, it's free for you. Nobody makes any money here, right? But you're learning.
Do we have any demographic stats on earlier cohorts, location split, ethnicities, etc.?
It's worldwide. It's yes, we do, but I don't have them off of the top of my head. So it's very wide age range. Like we've had high school kids through to, much older in their 60s and 70s apply, et cetera, et cetera. So very, very wide range of geography, demography, everything.
In the chat, we have one person who's having trouble with the application link. I'm quite sure it's the correct one, but you may need to try it via incognito mode or something.
Yeah, you miss. So if you're having trouble with a link, you need to log out of Founder Institute or try the link in incognito. So if you have another thing, a profile or whatever in the Founder Institute, you may be taken to your Founder Institute profile and not the application. So you need to log out of the Founder Institute and then follow the link, or follow the link incognito.
I'm assuming that's the case because it's only one
Yeah.
person. Then, yeah, we get this question a lot, but it's useful to answer. What's the difference between VC Lab and the Venture Institute?
Yeah, I mean, there's no similarity between them, okay? So the Venture Institute, you learn about venture capital, all right? You're gonna learn how it works, what careers are, how to screen deals. You're learning all about venture capital. In VC Lab, you're starting a venture capital firm or fund. So by the end of the program at VC Lab, you either have a fund or you've been dropped out. And by having a fund, I mean a capital from limited partners committed, the process underway to start forming the fund. Your fund is coming into existence, right? So you're starting a venture capital firm or fund. And obviously, that's a much harder, much more time consuming endeavor. So VC Lab is not full-time right away, but by the end of the program, you're working on this full-time. And obviously Venture Institute, as we discussed, is 10-ish hours a week for the whole time, and you're kind of learning.
How relevant is the course for growth equity firms?
I mean, they're all venture capital firms are similar, including later stage firms. But I would say growth equity is probably not that relevant because anyway, they're all fucked. All right. All these growth equity guys are dead in the water for the next uh n number of years. Call it 5. So if you want to enter growth equity, terrible time. I would not be going into growth equity. It's like, oh, I'm going to vacation in Gaza, and I'm gonna go, try and buy some arms in Iran. Like, don't do that. Bad idea. Bad idea to go into growth equity right now.
Question from the same person. I think he got a recommendation from a friend who's already in the program, applied but missed a referral link. Should they
Just
reapply?
mention that you were referred by them. Everyone here, if you want to, uh, if you're referred by someone, put their name in the application.
Um, would people be informed if their application is not
Yes, we'll let you
successful?
know probably early next year. Most people we're going to be doing acceptances starting today. So hopefully about 100 people will be accepted today. So keep in mind that that's like at least a third of the program, possibly more. So the chances to get in after today start declining because admissions go up and the number of spots go down. So honestly, if you haven't applied, you should definitely apply today.
Are there opportunities for cohort members to interact, collaborate, or engage with one another in addition to the Wednesday MA session?
Yeah, so every second Friday, we also do a networking event, right? So yes, there are plenty of opportunities. We do, and we have a LinkedIn community as well.
Yeah, and in addition to that, the normal Wednesday session also have a socializing component. We'll start with like a mentor presentation with Q&A, and then the next hour you can sit at virtual tables to interact with each other.
Someone's asking, is there a specific stage and how are the sessions conducted? So no, this is you're going to learn about venture capital, and that works for all stages, including growth equity. But it's just, I would say growth equity is really more like PE, less like VC anyway. So, once you start, PE firms are very similar to VC firms, although different. And so growth equity tends to be more PE. This program really is like learn to be all the aspects of VC. And as a result, once you start moving into private equity, some of the things you learn here won't apply because there's different regulations, there's different ways these firms are set up, etc.
Narayana
But
is
I would say early stage is the focus, maybe to like Series A. if you're looking at Series B or later, it's still relevant, just less relevant.
Narayana is asking, how can I join the Slack? There is no Slack for Venture Institute. We have a LinkedIn group.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Upvote some questions. Well, we should be able to get through all the questions. This is great, maybe.
Yeah, we do need to end on time, but let's try and do that. Ruchira didn't get selected next time. What can they do to improve their chances?
You know, you got to move your application over. If you haven't done so, make sure your application is moved over. It's possible, like, look, a lot of it depends on timing. So if your application's moved over right now, your chances of getting in are way better. We just accepted 100 people on 500 applicants, so that's 20%. But obviously, if you're coming in now, there's only 200 spots, so we're expecting anywhere 1,500 to 2,000 applicants. So now your chances suddenly got a lot worse to get in, right? It will be more like, eventually it will be like 1%. So if you didn't get in, but you applied late, it might just because there's not that many spots left, right? And we had lots and lots of applicants, and that starts to happen right now. So apply sooner, right? Move your application over today. That's the best thing you can do. And then, of course, go back through it and make sure your answers are good.
Yeah, put the application link in the chat again so people can get on that. Antoine, I think, is a little confused between VC Lab and Venture Institute, is saying, what if we don't have LPs or investors yet?
Yeah, so the VC Lab is the closing program. Venture Institute is the learning program. So you don't need LPs for Venture Institute. You're going to learn about what limited partners are. You're going to learn about different limited partner archetypes. You're going to learn how to research and find limited partners. And by the way, that body of learning will make you invaluable, because limited partners are like the gold of the industry. They're how the industry functions, and they're actually obfuscated from a lot of venture capital roles. And so you're going to learn all the stuff about limited partners in Venture Institute. Now in VC Lab, because you're closing a fund and the goal is to get to commitments and closes within 4 months, 5 months, maybe 6 months, right? You're going to have to start getting limited partners really quickly. If you don't have limited partners and you're going into VC Lab, you're going to struggle. It's going to be much harder for you. So you have to know some people that can be limited partners in order to succeed in VC Lab. So if you don't have that, a good first step for you would be to go into Venture Institute. And a lot of people go through Venture Institute to learn about all venture capital, learn about limited partners, learn about getting limited partners, and then take all that knowledge and go into VC Lab. So Venture Institute might be a good step for you, Antoine, to get going, and then go into VC Lab once you get that knowledge base and contact base built up.
Stimbile is asking, is the program mostly US focused?
No, we're in, obviously most of the people, well, I mean, Niels isn't in the US, he's in, right? So I'd say, actually, not even most of the people, a lot of it's a very global program, because Myrto's not in the US either, and she runs it. So I would say it's a super not US focused initiative, though you are getting a number of top US people who are teaching some of the sessions.
Question from me. We've built a marketplace of 150 creative goods and vendors. We are convinced we're adding VC component would help us achieve our goal. Am I in the right place to?
Yeah, you're wrong. Look, guys, you can't like have you can't, all right. Starting a venture capital firm is not like an add-on to a business, okay? there's no such thing as a small company with a VC wing, right? The only thing that where that analogy is true are what called venture studios. So venture studios, you have an enterprise, a business, in many cases a small business that's producing companies, and it will have an attached venture capital fund pretty commonly. Most venture studios have an attached. And that's the only example of a small company with an attached VC firm, right? Then you have very large companies that have VC firms, but that's just because they have tons of money they don't know what to do with. And they're like, oh, let's create our own VC firm, which is stupid, by the way. It's not like you're convinced it's a good idea. Well, I don't know who convinced you of that. It's a stupid idea. Let me help you. So starting a VC firm is very, 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 very hard. Okay. Very hard. Most people fail. Okay. Like the failure rate is ridiculous. Okay. And by the way, starting a startup is also hard, but it's a lot less harder. So, but it's still pretty hard. So the idea that you're going to start a startup, which is hard, and then also start a VC firm, which is incredibly hard, is crazy. It's like, it's not even possible. I'll just give you an example. We have a fund of funds. I raise the fund of funds. I'm running a fast growing startup. It's nearly impossible, nearly impossible. And I might even be one of the top experts in the entire world, right? Top 10. And I'm telling you, it's nearly impossible. So the idea that like, oh, I'm not, I think it's a great idea. No, it's a horrible idea. And it will lead to your failure of both things. So you are in the wrong place because we would never allow you to walk off a cliff blindfolded as to and see you suffer demise. We're not into watching people make fatal mistakes.
Then we have two questions about the entrepreneur DNA test. Is it compulsory? Well, yes. And is there an overlap for determining fit for a VC career?
So we have a algorithm that's an R.25, so that's not great, honestly, but they're traits that predict really well. And so can the entrepreneur DNA test, which is really just a psychometric test, predict your career in VC? So the best algorithm we have right now is a 0.25 R, which isn't bad, but it's not great. But as I said, there are traits in the predictive admissions test that's very accurate to your success in venture. So we think it's super useful. There are traits that also predict that you're not going to be a fit. So there's traits that predict you're going to be a fit and traits that predict you're not going to be a fit. And we therefore feel the test is fairly useful.
Exactly. Last question we have here is, does having a previous VC internship experience give you an edge in this application process?
Yeah, it should, right? It's not, look, obviously there's going to be a ton of people that don't have any VC experience. And then there's tons of people that have tons of VC experience, right? There are people coming in the program that are venture partners, people coming in the program that want to learn fund, that want to launch funds. So they understand enough to launch a fund. They just want to they feel safer, if you will, with a broader knowledge of how venture capital works before starting the firm. So they, go through this program. So yeah, a little bit more experience definitely does help, but it's not a prerequisite. All right, so we got a couple minutes left. We'll leave with some closing thoughts here. So as I said earlier, our goal is to really change the industry and change the world for the better, right? And we don't believe that in centrally planned systems, right? They just traditionally haven't worked really well. So we want to see thousands of managers with tens of thousands of team members all around the world funding innovations in the different countries, regions, cities, etc., to really make the world a better place. And that's how we see that venture capital can be and will be a force for good in the world, because there will be ethical managers with ethical teams looking to back companies that are trying to fix the problems of the world and pouring tons of capital into those companies so that we actually have a shot of hitting the sustainable development goals by 2030 and going beyond. Because honestly, it's not enough to hit them. The damage is too far gone. We need to reverse climate change. Okay, we need to bring down the levels of carbon in the environment. We need to reintroduce species and increase biodiversity. We need to do all of this on renewable energy sources that don't require us, burning and creating other problems for the planet. This can be done, it will be done, and it needs to be done now. So with that, everyone, thank you very much. Have a beautiful day, and I hope you get into the Venture Institute. We can help you launch your VC career.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Bye.